Hey YouTube, this is Zach with Savage Traveling, coming to you from Indiana. I know this video is about Thailand because I am going to Thailand in like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. I'm flying over. But that's what I wanted to talk about today is they just put out some new restrictions because they're having COVID surges, right? They're having 1,500 cases a day that they're finding. The fatality rate is still real low in Thailand, according to their numbers, whatnot. But they've decided as of yesterday that they're shutting down. There's like a bunch of red zones and orange zones. So like red zones are like Bangkok, Pattaya, Chonburi, Chiang Mai, and a load others that I can't pronounce, or will I try. But I just want to talk about, like I said, if you were thinking about going to Thailand now and you haven't yet, or you haven't like done your certificate of entry, because it's a big old rigmarole to get into Thailand right now, even as because I'm coming on visa exempt, so that means I get 30 days free in the kingdom, and then I'm able, well, it's 45 right now to allow you extra days for quarantine, and then you can extend for 30 more, so it gives you like, I think 75 days in Thailand altogether for 1,900 baht, because that second 30 days you have to pay for like $60. So, but I just wanted to, discuss, like, if it was the situation now, would I still book my trip? And I probably wouldn't, just because I would like to wait and see what this COVID's going to do. Because when I booked the trip a couple weeks ago, they had just turned everything, they just dropped quarantine to 7 days for vaccinated travelers. They had talked about in July they were gonna let vaccinated travelers into Phuket and maybe some other areas, but Phuket definitely in July, and they're still saying that now. But as a conscious traveler, and I want to enjoy myself too, because I was going to Thailand. Well, I'm going to Thailand. I'm going to rent a motorbike and I'm going to ride around, and I'm going to see the sights. And I was hoping I could stop into these little towns and cities, get a room, be able to go down to the bar and at least eat and have a beer with my meal. And like, you can't even do that right now. Like I said, they're allowing restaurants in red zones open till 9. Wow, I'm so shaky. Restaurants are open till 9 in red zones and 11 p.m. in orange zones, but they're not allowed to serve alcohol anymore. I mean, they were allowed to serve alcohol up until like last week, and then they closed all entertainment, and you could only drink alcohol in restaurants and stuff, and that's like off the table now. 7-Elevens are only allowed to be open till 4 a.m. till 11 p.m. at night. So they're shutting everything down, so it's just going to be inconvenient as a tourist, and they're still granting certificate of entries. I was on Facebook earlier today, like going through the ASQ groups and the different Thailand backpacker travel groups I'm in, and just getting a sense of what's going on over there. And like I said, there's people still being granted certificate of entries. So, I mean, they're confident that they can control the outbreak, but am I confident that they can control the outbreak? I'm not too worried right now, because until it turns into, it starts looking like an India situation, and then we have a problem. But so far, this whole last year, Thailand's had a very minimal impact from COVID, comparatively, compared to other countries. So I don't know what to say. It's like, yeah, I'm all about going because I paid for ASQ quarantine. That's not cheap. I got a flight. That's not cheap. And then you have insurance, which isn't cheap, but it's a little more expensive when you add COVID to it. Like, I usually get travel insurance anyway, but it's not this expensive it's usually not this expensive because COVID wasn't a thing, obviously. So I don't know, like, you have to be really serious about coming to Thailand as a tourist right now. Now, if you have family and friends and kids and all that, I completely understand. But me, as I don't have anybody really over there, I got friends over there that I met in previous travels, but this isn't, like I said, 2 weeks ago, the situation was a little different, and I had more confidence that I was going to be able to motorbike around freely and not be worrying about quarantines going into different provinces, which I still think is a thing. Or at least some of the provinces were saying you had to quarantine or take a test around Songkran if you were wanting to come or whatever. And now I don't know how strictly that was enforced, but as a foreigner, a Farang on a motorbike coming into your city, you're gonna know you know, you're gonna know he's from somewhere else, obviously, and more than likely came from Bangkok, which is a red zone. So, you know, it could be troublesome as wanting to just try to cruise around and enjoy. So who knows? I won't be out of quarantine for another 3.5 weeks anyways, so hopefully a lot of positive things happen between now and then. So, like, you know, when I get out of quarantine, maybe I can go out and get a beer at least with my dinner, you know what I mean? Which isn't everything. I'm not a big drinker at home. Like, you know, I might drink 4 or 6 beers a month, like, really, like, that's it. And but when I'm out traveling, like, I want one with dinner. Why, you know what I mean? So I don't know, guys, it's your decision. I know a lot of people are still looking to come because, you know, 7-day quarantine, it's still not perfect, you know what I mean? But it's better than 11 or definitely 16 nights like they were initially giving people, and it still are if you're from South Africa and certain countries, I guess. But it's kind of strange, you know, going to a country to quarantine 7 days when it's supposedly the virus is raging out there. And in some instances, they're even bringing asymptomatic Thais that have tested positive and bringing them to ASQ quarantine hotels and housing them. I was reading one story in a ASQ group, quarantine group, that the people had been asked to pack up their stuff and move to a different hotel because they were bringing Thais in that had tested positive, but they're not sick, and they're housing them in that hotel in quarantine. Because in Thailand, if you test positive with no symptoms, you're still going into quarantine for 14 days in a field hospital, or in this case, an ASQ hotel. They must have been high society Thais or something like that, because poor Thais go to the field hospital, which is just a big dorm with a bunch of beds in it. And if you're lucky, you'll have walls. It's crazy. So, like I said, if you're thinking about coming now, I would honestly think about coming, because you may or may not want to deal with what is about to happen. You know, it could get better or it could get worse, and like I could get out of quarantine and they could be in full lockdown, like, you know, mid-May or whatever, you know, which I hope, obviously I hope that's not the case. I don't want that to happen, you know what I mean? I absolutely don't want that to happen. I want to fly, you know, I don't want to fly 23 hours and then have 7 days of quarantine to get out to be on lockdown, you know, which it's pretty much, you know, they're not calling what they're doing right now a lockdown, but 7-Eleven's closing at 11, restaurants closing at 9 in Bangkok anyways, not serving alcohol, all nightlife is, you know, not existent. It's pretty much a lockdown. I mean, for a tourist, you're right, you know? So, like I said, I know a lot of people are coming. I mean, myself included. I mean, I'm gonna go no matter what. They would have to cancel my certificate of entry for me to not show up at the airport in a couple weeks. That hasn't happened yet. They're still talking about vaccinated tourists coming to Phuket in July without quarantine. You know, it's one of those judgment calls. Do you want an adventure, or do you want to, you know, who knows? It could not be an adventure. It could be a really rough time in quarantine and then lockdown. Who knows? I mean, I hope I get there in a couple weeks, do my quarantine. Should be 7 days because I'm a vaccinated guy. Mainly just so I could do a 7-day quarantine, because 11 and 16 did not sound very, it didn't sound like what my style of travel. But I'll do 7 if I have to. I'm ready to get out of the United States. It's crazy here. Now, you know, it's pretty calm where I'm at right now, but there's always something going on in the news that you don't want to hear about. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm sure it's the same over there for the locals, but I'm ready to travel. We're down here at the beautiful Missinol Reservoir. I can give you a quick look at that. But anyways, guys, definitely take in mind that it is kind of topsy-turvy in Thailand right now for a tourist, but they're still letting us in. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna vlog it all from, you know, the second I, you know, leave Indiana till I get there, till I rent a motorbike, until we figure out what's going on, and I'll tell you guys exactly what's going on and how to do what I'm doing anyways, if you want to know. So if you like this video, please think about liking and subscribing if you made it this far. And if you have made it this far, you're an absolute legend, and I appreciate it. So thanks, guys. Once again, I'll be in Thailand real soon, and we're going to make the best of it. Peace.